"Please don't send me back," said the alien Orphan. The Queen raised her hand. The space station, Aurora Nexus, floated like a jewel among the stars, its wide, gleaming corridors bustling with travelers from countless worlds. Ships of all shapes and sizes docked at its massive ports, releasing passengers into the central hub where markets, observation decks, and transit systems wove together in a maze of colors and sounds. The station was alive with chatter in dozens of languages, the hum of engines, and the occasional burst of music from open cafes. Amid this lively chaos, a small figure moved cautiously along the corridors, drawing few eyes at first. The figure was a little girl, no older than 7 or 8, with large eyes that shimmered in shades of violet and silver. Her hair flowed like soft waves of moonlight, and her small frame was wrapped in a simple cloak that seemed too big for her. She clutched a tiny device in her hands, a rectangular object that projected faint, glowing images. When she moved the device slightly, scenes of an alien world flickered above it, a world full of towering crystalline trees, floating rivers, and creatures that looked like living clouds. Lyra, as she was called, had been wandering alone on Aurora Nexus for several days. She had arrived on a transport ship with no one to meet her, no home to return to. Her people, the Arithians, had once thrived on their planet, but a distant planetary conflict had left her orphaned. She had lost everyone she loved, her parents, her siblings, even her friends. Her heart carried a quiet ache, and her small frame seemed weighed down by memories far too heavy for a child. As she walked through the crowded halls, many travelers simply glanced past her. Some were too busy with their own business, others were wary of strangers, and a few even gave her curious stares because of her alien appearance. Lyra had learned quickly to keep her head down and move quietly. Yet despite her attempts to stay unnoticed, her glowing eyes and small, fragile frame drew attention from a few kind souls who lingered a moment longer than they might otherwise. Near one of the station's large observation windows, where the stars stretched endlessly into the void, Lyra paused. Her violet eyes reflected the lights of distant galaxies, and for a moment she seemed lost in a memory of her home planet. She activated her holographic device, and a familiar scene appeared, a grove of crystalline trees glowing softly in the light of 2 suns. Lyra whispered, her voice trembling slightly, "I wish I could go back just for a little while." From behind her, a warm, calm voice spoke. "You're not supposed to be here alone." Lyra turned quickly, startled. A human figure stood a few feet away, hands raised in a non-threatening gesture. He was tall, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. His uniform marked him as a space traveler or perhaps someone affiliated with the station's administration. I'm not going anywhere," Lyra said softly, clutching her device closer to her chest. She wasn't sure whether she could trust this stranger. The man knelt down to her level, careful not to loom over her. "I didn't mean to scare you," he said. "I'm Captain Elan. I can help you if you let me." Lyra's eyes widened. Most adults she had met on the station either ignored her or tried to send her away. This one looked different. There was no hurry in his voice, no demand, only a quiet patience. "Help me how?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Captain Elan glanced at the holographic projection. "That's beautiful. Where is this?" Lyra's hand shook slightly as she adjusted the projection, revealing more of her memories. "It's my home. My planet, it doesn't exist anymore," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't want to go back. Please, don't send me back." The words hung in the air, small and fragile, yet filled with a raw sincerity that tugged at Elan's heart. He had encountered many travelers from across the stars, but he had never met someone like Lyra. Her intelligence shone through in her understanding of the device, her ability to communicate, and the stories she carried in her mind. But more than that, there was a quiet bravery in her plea. Elan placed a gentle hand near his chest. "You won't be sent anywhere you don't want to go," he said softly. I promise we'll find a safe place for you." Lyra hesitated, unsure if she could trust anyone anymore. She had been told before that people would help her, only to be sent away or ignored. But something in Elan's calm demeanor felt different. Slowly, she nodded. Over the next few hours, Captain Elan guided Lyra through the station's bustling halls, careful to keep her away from the crowds that might not understand her. He explained things in simple terms, where they were, how the station worked, and what kinds of travelers passed through. Lyra listened with wide eyes, absorbing every detail. For the first time in days, she felt a small spark of hope. They stopped at a quiet chamber where the station's council liaison could be contacted. Elan explained Lyra's situation. She was an orphan from a distant, now uninhabitable planet. The standard protocol would have been to send her to an interplanetary orphanage, but Elan argued that such a place might not be safe or nurturing for someone as unique as Lyra. The council liaison, a silver-haired humanoid with luminous eyes, raised an eyebrow. "Are you suggesting a human should determine her future?" "I'm suggesting she deserves a choice," Elan replied firmly. "And she deserves to be somewhere she can thrive, not just survive." Lyra watched the exchange silently. She didn't fully understand the politics or procedures, but she felt the weight of her words being considered. For once, someone was listening to her, really listening. After some deliberation, the liaison nodded. "There is one possibility. Queen Selara of Lumina has a reputation for accepting children from endangered species. Perhaps she could provide a safe and nurturing environment." Elan's eyes brightened. "Then that is where we will go." He turned to Lyra. "Would you like to meet a queen?" Lyra blinked, unsure whether to laugh or cry. A queen. It sounded like a story from her childhood, one of fairy tales her parents used to tell her, but the sincerity in Elan's voice made it real. She nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and fear. The journey to Lumina would not be simple. It required traveling through a region of space known for its beautiful but unpredictable cosmic phenomena. Massive nebulae shimmered like curtains of light, and clusters of asteroids floated silently like frozen islands. Captain Elan explained that the journey could take several days, and Lyra would need to remain calm and cooperative. She agreed, determined to make the most of this chance. As they prepared to board the ship, Lyra took one last look at Aurora Nexus. The station had been her temporary home, a place of fleeting safety and fleeting fear. Now, she felt a quiet determination stirring within her. She held her holographic device tightly, imagining the memories of her lost home blending with the promise of a new one. The ship's engines roared to life, and the stars outside stretched into long lines of light as they accelerated into faster-than-light travel. Lyra pressed her face against the glass, staring at the passing stars. "Do you think I can really belong somewhere?" she asked quietly. Elan smiled gently. "You will belong wherever you choose to belong, Lyra, and I think you're about to find a place that will welcome you with open arms." Lyra leaned back, feeling a mix of nervousness and hope. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to imagine a future that was bright, safe, and full of wonder. As the ship glided through the colorful expanse of space, Lyra's holographic memories shimmered around her. Scenes of her lost world mingled with visions of strange nebulae, glowing asteroid fields, and distant planets yet to be discovered. She realized that while she could never return to her home, there was still a universe full of beauty, waiting for her to explore. And for the first time in her young life, Lyra felt that she was not alone. The ship sailed quietly through the endless expanse of stars. Outside the window, streaks of colored light shimmered as the vessel passed through a distant nebula. Lyra pressed her small hands against the glass, mesmerized. The stars seemed to dance, glowing in hues of purple, green, and gold, and she felt a thrill she had never experienced before. Captain Elan sat nearby, watching her with a calm smile. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" he asked. Lyra nodded, her eyes wide. I've never seen anything like this. It's like the stars are alive. They kind of are, Elan said gently. Every star has its story. Some are old and wise, some are young and playful. And some are just beginning to shine. Lyra leaned closer to the glass. Do you think I can shine like a star too? Elan chuckled softly. I already see it in you. You just need to find the right place to let your light grow. Lyra smiled faintly, feeling a warmth in her chest. She had spent so long feeling small, lost, and alone. Yet here, floating among the stars with someone who seemed to care, she felt a small spark of hope. The first day aboard the ship was quiet. Captain Elan guided Lyra through the corridors, showing her the control panels, the observation decks, and the small living quarters where they would rest during the journey. He explained how the ship worked in simple words, pointing out the screens that displayed maps of nearby star systems and glowing indicators of their speed and direction. Lyra was fascinated. Even though she was only a child, she understood things quickly, absorbing every detail like a sponge. That evening, as the ship passed through a glowing asteroid belt, Elan suggested they try something special. Would you like to see something most travelers never get to see? He asked. Lyra's eyes lit up. Yes. He led her to a special observation deck at the very top of the ship. Here, the glass was larger, stretching from floor to ceiling, giving a panoramic view of the universe. The asteroid belt glimmered like floating jewels, and strange lights moved among the rocks, dust particles reflecting distant suns, some tiny, some larger, almost like miniature planets. Lyra's mouth opened in awe. It's magical," she whispered. Elan nodded. This is why I love traveling through space. Every journey has something new to show us. It reminds us how big the universe is and how small we are, but also how important each of us can be. Lyra stared at the moving lights, imagining the creatures that might live on the asteroids or in the nebula ahead. She thought of her lost home, her family, and the life she had left behind. A small pang of sadness came, but it was softer now, mixed with wonder. Over the next few days, Captain Elan and Lyra continued their journey through some of the most remarkable regions of space. They passed through a field of glowing crystals that floated like glass sculptures, reflecting light in every direction. Lyra reached out her hand as if she could touch the shimmering colors. It's like my memories, she said softly, glowing, beautiful, but far away. Elan put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Your memories are part of you. They make you who you are, and they can guide you forward instead of holding you back. Lyra thought about that. She had always felt her past as a heavy weight, something she could not escape. But now, for the first time, she began to see it differently, not as something that trapped her, but as something that could help her grow. One afternoon, as the ship floated near a small, glowing planet, Lyra asked, "Captain, what is Lumina like?" Elan smiled, leaning back in his chair. Lumina is peaceful. The people there value knowledge, kindness, and understanding. It's a place where anyone can learn, grow, and belong. They have gardens that float in the air, libraries filled with holographic books, and schools where children from different planets learn together. I think you'll like it. Lyra's eyes widened with excitement. Will I really belong there? Elan looked at her with gentle certainty. Yes, Lyra, you have something special inside you. You're kind, smart, and brave. Those qualities will help you find a place where you are truly welcome. Lyra felt a warmth in her heart at his words. For the first time in her life, she believed that maybe, just maybe, she could have a home again. That night, Lyra sat by the window, holding her holographic device close. She projected a scene of her lost planet, letting the image fill the small cabin with the memory of her home. The crystalline trees swayed gently in the wind, and the rivers glowed under twin suns. She whispered softly, I hope they'll understand me. I hope I can find a place like this again, somewhere I belong. Captain Elan came to stand beside her, watching the image silently. You will, he said softly, and you'll make it even better. You'll carry your memories with you and you'll create new ones too. Lyra nodded, feeling a small sense of determination. She realized that she could not change the past, but she could shape her future. And for the first time, she felt ready to try. The next morning, the ship entered a vast nebula, its clouds of colorful gas stretching across millions of kilometers of space. The colors swirled and shimmered, creating shapes that looked almost alive. Lyra watched in amazement, and for a moment, she felt as if she could reach out and touch the stars themselves. As they moved deeper into the nebula, the ship's sensors detected something unusual. Tiny glowing creatures like floating jellyfish made of light drifted through the gas clouds. Lyra pressed her hands against the glass, her eyes sparkling with wonder. "What are they?" she asked. Elan smiled. "Those are star whales. They are gentle, intelligent beings that communicate using light patterns. People say that if you watch them carefully, you can understand their stories." Lyra's heart raced. She had never seen anything so beautiful. She imagined the star whales singing stories of distant worlds, of children who had lost their families, and of hope that could travel across the stars. She felt a connection to them, a quiet understanding that even in the vastness of space, no one was truly alone. Over the next several days, Lyra and Captain Elan developed a routine. They explored the ship, shared meals in the small dining area, and spent hours in the observation deck, marveling at the wonders outside. Elan taught her basic navigation, simple principles of physics, and stories of the civilizations that lived on different planets. Lyra absorbed everything eagerly, asking questions and offering her own observations. "You know," Elan said one evening, "you have a gift. You see things differently from most people. You notice patterns, colors, and ideas that others might miss. That's a rare talent, Lyra." Lyra blushed slightly, unsure how to respond. I just pay attention," she said softly. "Paying attention is how the greatest explorers and inventors start," Elan said. "You may be small, but your mind is vast." Lyra felt a surge of pride. For so long, she had doubted herself, feeling insignificant and unimportant. But now, with Elan's encouragement, she began to see her own potential. She was not just a lost child drifting in space. She was someone capable of making a difference, someone who could shine brightly in her own way. One morning, as they approached the outer edge of the nebula, Elan guided Lyra to a special room filled with holographic charts of nearby star systems. "This is where we plan the final part of our journey," he explained. "We'll navigate through a series of safe corridors that will take us directly to Lumina. You can watch and even help if you want." Lyra's eyes lit up. "I want to help," Elan nodded. "Good. You'll see how every star, every planet, and every path has a purpose. Space is like a puzzle, and you're learning to read it." Together, they adjusted the ship's path, observing the shifting lights and calculating safe routes. Lyra's small hands moved confidently over the controls, her mind sharp and focused. Elan watched with admiration. She was learning quickly, not just about the ship, but about herself. As the final day of the journey approached, Lyra grew more excited. The thought of meeting Queen Selara filled her with both nervousness and hope. She imagined the palace on Lumina, the gardens floating in the air, and the children she might meet. She thought about the possibility of belonging somewhere, of being understood and accepted. Captain Elan noticed her nervous excitement. "Remember," he said gently, "this is just the beginning. The Queen is wise and kind. She will see the goodness in you just as I do." Lyra nodded, feeling her heart swell with anticipation. For the first time in her life, she truly believed that she was on a journey not just through space, but toward a new home, a new family, and a future filled with possibility. As the ship glided toward Lumina, the stars outside shimmered like a million tiny lanterns guiding her path. Lyra pressed her hands to the glass once more, whispering softly, "I hope I can shine like them. I hope I can belong." Elan stood behind her, smiling quietly. "You will, Lyra. You already are." and for the first time in a long while, Lyra felt a lightness in her chest. The journey through space was not just a passage from one place to another, it was a journey to herself. She had survived the past, embraced the present, and was ready to meet a future where she could finally belong. The stars outside twinkled as if in agreement, welcoming the little alien girl who was learning to find her place among them. The ship descended gently toward Lumina, its glowing surface spreading out like a vast, living garden. The planet seemed to shimmer under twin suns, with floating islands hovering above lush forests and sparkling rivers winding between crystal-like buildings. Lyra pressed her hands against the window, her eyes wide with wonder. This was nothing like she had imagined. Her memories of her home planet were filled with beauty, but Lumina radiated a life and harmony that felt almost magical. Captain Elan guided her through the docking procedures, ensuring she stayed close to him. "Remember," he said softly, "this is just the beginning. The Queen will decide what comes next, but right now, all you need to do is be yourself." Lyra nodded, feeling a flutter of nervous excitement. She had never met anyone as powerful as a queen, and the thought made her heart beat faster. But she also remembered Elan's words. Courage was not about being fearless. It was about moving forward even when afraid. When they stepped onto Lumina, the air felt different, lighter, fragrant with the scent of alien flowers, and filled with the soft hum of energy that seemed to come from the floating islands themselves. Children of many species played in the gardens, their laughter blending with the rustle of leaves and the gentle gurgle of water flowing from hovering fountains. Lyra's steps slowed, overwhelmed by the beauty and tranquility around her. A Lumian guide approached, tall and graceful with skin that shimmered like polished silver. "Welcome to Lumina," the guide said in a soft, melodic voice. "I am Sela, one of the Council of Guides. You must be Lyra." Lyra nodded shyly. "Yes, I'm Lyra," Sela smiled. "You have come a long way. The Queen wishes to see you, but first you must demonstrate your abilities. Here on Lumina, every child is encouraged to use their mind, their heart, and their creativity. Are you ready?" Lyra took a deep breath. I'll try my best." Sela led her through a series of tests designed to measure intelligence, creativity, and empathy. The first task involved understanding patterns in energy streams flowing through a crystal array. Lyra studied the shifting lights, remembering the holographic projections of her home planet. She noticed how the lights interacted, forming shapes that told a story. Slowly, she began to rearrange the crystals, guiding the streams to create a glowing image of a small Erythian grove. The guides watched in amazement as the patterns moved with precision and elegance, telling a story without words. "Impressive," Sela said. "You have a strong sense of observation and understanding. Most children would struggle with this task." Lyra smiled faintly. "I like noticing things," she said quietly. Next came a test of empathy. Lyra was placed in a room with several Lumian children who were struggling with a malfunctioning water system that supplied one of the floating gardens. The children tried moving parts of the system, but it kept breaking. Lyra observed quietly, her mind mapping the connections between pipes, energy flows, and the water source. Then, with a calm voice, she explained, "If we adjust the flow from here and rotate these valves gently, the water will reach the top garden without spilling." The children followed her instructions, and slowly, the water system began to function perfectly. Water flowed smoothly, feeding the floating gardens and sparkling fountains. The other children cheered, and the guides exchanged impressed glances. "You have a rare gift," one of the guides said. "You not only understand systems, but you can work with others to solve problems." Lyra felt a warm glow in her chest. For the first time, she realized that her differences could be strengths. She could help, she could create, she could belong. That evening, Lyra and Captain Elan walked through the gardens. Floating lanterns glowed softly, and the twin moons of Lumina began to rise, casting silver light across the rivers and crystal buildings. Lyra clutched her holographic device, showing Elan a memory of her lost home. "I wish I could share this with them," she said softly. "My planet, it was so beautiful, and now it's gone." Elan knelt beside her, resting a hand on her shoulder. "Your memories are part of you, Lyra. They make you unique, and now you can share them in a new way by helping others, teaching and creating." Lyra looked up at him. "Do you really think I can do that?" "I know you can," he said. "You're stronger than you realize." The next day, Lyra faced her final challenge before meeting the Queen. The Council of Guides would evaluate her overall readiness to live on Lumina. The council chamber was a large, open space with floors that reflected the sky above, making it feel like the room floated among the clouds. Guides of different species observed from various points, their expressions calm but curious. Lyra stepped forward, her small frame standing tall despite the nervous flutter in her chest. The council presented a series of scenarios, asking her to solve problems that required quick thinking, compassion, and creativity. One scenario involved helping a group of young Lumians repair a delicate energy generator that powered part of a floating island. Lyra analyzed the components, remembered similar systems from her home planet, and guided the children in reconnecting circuits and aligning energy nodes. Within moments, the generator hummed to life, and the island glowed with renewed energy. Another scenario tested her ability to mediate conflicts. Two groups of children disagreed over how to build a small bridge between two gardens. Lyra listened to both sides carefully, asked questions, and suggested a solution that incorporated both ideas. The children smiled, nodding in agreement, and quickly worked together to build the bridge. The council members whispered among themselves, impressed by her calm reasoning and ability to understand both machines and minds. Lyra, despite feeling nervous, kept her focus, remembering Elan's advice. Courage was about standing for what you believed in. Finally, the council asked her to share a story from her home planet. Lyra hesitated, then activated her holographic device. The room filled with glowing images of her crystalline trees, floating rivers, and the creatures that had once roamed her world. She described the colors, the sounds, and the traditions of her people. As she spoke, the council members leaned closer, captivated by the beauty and depth of her memories. When she finished, the chamber was silent for a moment. Then one of the council members spoke. "You carry a world with you, Lyra. Even though it is lost, it lives in your mind and heart. That is a gift, not a burden." Lyra's chest swelled with pride. She had worried that her past would make her different in a way that others could not accept. But here on Lumina, it seemed that her uniqueness was valued, even admired. Captain Elan stood quietly at the back, watching her with a gentle smile. He could see the spark of confidence in her eyes, a spark that had grown brighter during their journey. Lyra had begun to realize that she could not only survive in a new world but thrive. That evening, Lyra explored the gardens on her own, her steps light and eager. She had been so focused on the challenges of the day that she hadn't fully taken in the beauty around her. Now she paused to watch small creatures that glided through the air like living ribbons of light, and she marveled at flowers that opened and closed with gentle pulses of energy. She even discovered a small library tucked under a floating bridge, filled with holographic books and interactive learning stations. Sitting among the books, Lyra felt a sense of belonging she had never known. She was far from her home planet, yet she had found a place where her mind, her heart, and her memories were appreciated. And she knew that tomorrow, she would meet Queen Selara, the figure who could decide if Lumina would truly be her new home. That night, as she looked out at the glowing rivers and floating islands, Lyra whispered to herself, "I hope I can make them proud. I hope I can belong here." Captain Elan, standing just outside, heard her whisper and nodded quietly. "You already are, Lyra, you already are." The stars above Lumina twinkled softly, as if acknowledging the little alien girl who had traveled across the universe, faced her fears, and proven that even the smallest among us could shine brightly. The next morning, Lumina glowed under the light of its twin suns, casting a warm and gentle glow across the floating gardens and crystal buildings. Lyra awoke with a flutter of nervous excitement in her chest. Today, she would meet Queen Selara, the ruler of this beautiful world who could decide whether she truly had a home here. Captain Elan helped her prepare for the meeting, reminding her gently, "Remember, Lyra, the Queen is wise and kind. She will not judge you by fear or appearances. Be yourself and let her see who you are inside." Lyra nodded, holding her holographic device tightly. It contained the memories of her lost home, her family, and her people. She wondered if the Queen would understand the depth of her experiences, the loss she carried, and the hope that still burned quietly inside her. They walked along a pathway of floating stones that led to the palace. Lyra marveled at the gardens, watching as flowers shifted colors, responding to the sunlight, and birds with wings like shimmering glass glided through the air. The floating islands above the palace glowed faintly, each one a small ecosystem of plants, fountains, and creatures unique to Lumina. As they approached the grand entrance, Lyra felt her heart beat faster. The palace was magnificent. Tall crystal towers stretched toward the sky, reflecting sunlight in brilliant patterns. A gentle hum of energy filled the air, a comforting vibration that seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of the planet itself. A group of attendants guided Lyra and Elan into a spacious hall, where Queen Selara awaited. The queen stood tall, her presence serene and commanding without being intimidating. Her skin shimmered faintly, like polished silver, and her eyes glowed with a soft, warm light. She smiled at Lyra, a smile that was both regal and welcoming. "Welcome, Lyra," the queen said, her voice melodic and soothing. "I have heard of your journey, your courage, and your remarkable mind. I am pleased to finally meet you." Lyra stepped forward, trying to steady her nerves. "Thank you, your majesty," she said softly. I hope I can belong here." The queen's smile widened. "Belonging is not just about being accepted. It is about understanding, learning, and contributing." "Tell me, Lyra, what makes you hope to belong on Lumina?" Lyra took a deep breath, glancing down at her holographic device. She activated it, projecting images of her home planet, the crystalline trees, the floating rivers, and the creatures that had once lived there. She explained softly, "My planet, it doesn't exist anymore. I lost everyone I loved, but I want to learn, to help, and to be part of something good. I want to belong somewhere safe, and I want to make a difference." Queen Selara watched closely, her eyes reflecting the holographic images. She nodded thoughtfully. "You carry not only memories of loss but also the hope to create something new. That is rare, Lyra. Tell me, what have you learned on your journey here?" Lyra thought for a moment, then said, "I learned that even when you are small, you can help others. I learned that paying attention, understanding, and being kind can make a big difference. And I learned that courage isn't about fighting. It's about moving forward even when you're afraid." The queen stepped closer, raising her hand in a graceful gesture that glowed faintly with energy. "Your words are wise beyond your years. I see in you not only a child who has endured great loss but also a mind capable of shaping a future. Lumina values knowledge, creativity, and empathy. You embody all of these qualities." Lyra's chest swelled with emotion. For the first time, she felt truly seen, not as a lost orphan or a stranger, but as someone with worth and potential. Tears shimmered in her eyes, but she held back, feeling a mix of relief and joy. "Your Majesty," she whispered, I don't want to be sent back. I want to stay here, learn, and help. I want to belong." The queen extended her hand toward Lyra. "Then it is decided. You shall stay on Lumina. You will have a home here, guidance from our best teachers, and the freedom to grow as you wish. Your uniqueness is your strength, and it will be celebrated, not hidden." Lyra's eyes widened, and she felt her knees almost buckle with happiness. "Thank you, Your Majesty," she said, her voice quivering with joy. "I promise I will do my best." Queen Selara smiled warmly. "I have no doubt, Lyra. Your journey has only just begun. But know this, you are already part of our world, and your presence will enrich it in ways you cannot yet imagine." After the formal meeting, the Queen invited Lyra to explore the palace grounds. Lyra wandered through floating gardens where flowers responded to her touch, opening and closing in soft, glowing pulses. Birds with rainbow-colored feathers perched nearby, watching her with curious eyes. Children of different species played together, laughing and sharing stories. Lyra felt a sense of wonder and belonging she had never known before. She discovered a small observatory filled with telescopes, star charts, and holographic projections of distant planets. Lyra's eyes lit up. She had always loved studying the stars, and now she had access to a place where she could learn freely. She spent hours observing constellations, charting planets, and imagining the stories of civilizations that might exist across the galaxy. Captain Elan watched her quietly, a gentle smile on his face. "You were meant for this," he said softly. "Your mind and heart belong here as much as anyone else's." Lyra turned to him, her eyes shining. "I feel like I can finally do something, like I can make a difference." "You already are," he said. "Every small act of kindness, every thoughtful idea, it all matters." Over the next few days, Lyra began her lessons with the Queen's tutors. She learned about Lumina's history, its unique technologies, and the principles that guided its society. She studied not only science and art, but also diplomacy and problem-solving, learning how different species could work together to create harmony. Lyra discovered that she had a natural talent for understanding complex systems. She could see patterns and connections that others missed, whether in energy flows, social interactions, or natural environments. Her holographic device became a tool for exploration, allowing her to project ideas, create simulations, and share her visions with others. One afternoon, Lyra helped a group of children repair a small floating garden that had stopped rotating properly. Using her knowledge from the ship and her observations of Lumina's systems, she guided them in aligning energy nodes and balancing the flow. Slowly, the garden began to turn, and plants swayed gently in the light. The children cheered, and Lyra felt a quiet pride in her heart. As she rested by a glowing fountain later that evening, Lyra reflected on how far she had come. She had traveled across the stars, faced her fears, and shown that even someone small and different could contribute in meaningful ways. She realized that her lost home and her memories were not just shadows of the past. They were part of her strength, guiding her as she created a new life. Captain Elan joined her by the fountain. "You've grown so much in just a few days," he said. "The Queen saw it too. She knows that you belong here, Lyra, not because of where you came from, but because of who you are." Lyra smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "I think I finally understand what belonging feels like," she said softly. "It's not just about having a place to stay, it's about being accepted, understood, and valued." "You're exactly right," Elan said. "And you will continue to grow, to shine, and to help others feel the same way." That night, Lyra lay on a soft bed in her new room, a view of the twin moons shining through the window. She projected her home planet one last time, letting the images fill the room with memories of crystal trees, floating rivers, and distant suns. She whispered to herself, "I will honor them by living well, by learning, and by helping others find their place too." Lumina outside glowed softly, as if responding to her promise. The flowers pulsed gently, and the rivers shimmered with reflected light. Lyra felt a sense of peace she had never known, a home, a future, and a purpose all waiting for her. The next morning, she awoke with renewed excitement. Her lessons would continue, and she would meet other children from across the galaxy. Each day was an opportunity to learn, explore, and contribute, and she knew that no matter what challenges came, she was no longer alone. She had a home, a mentor, friends, and the guidance of a queen who believed in her. As Lyra prepared for the day, she glanced at her holographic device and smiled. The images of her lost home shimmered gently, a reminder of where she had come from and why she had traveled so far. But now, she also saw Lumina, a world full of possibility, kindness, and learning. And in that moment, Lyra understood that her journey was just beginning. She had found a place where she could grow, belong, and shine brightly. She had discovered that even in a vast universe, someone small and different could make a difference. And above all, she had learned that hope, courage, and kindness could guide a lost child to a new home, where the stars themselves seemed to welcome her with open arms. Lyra woke early, the twin suns of Lumina spilling golden light across her room. She stretched, her small body tingling with excitement. Today felt different, special, a day for discovery, growth, and new beginnings. For the first time in her life, she did not feel lost. Lumina was no longer a strange place she had traveled to, it was becoming her home. Captain Elan appeared at her doorway, carrying a tray of breakfast with glowing fruits and soft, warm bread. "Good morning, Lyra," he said with a gentle smile. "Ready for another day of learning and exploration?" Lyra nodded eagerly. "Yes. I want to see everything and learn everything I can." Elan chuckled. "Good, that's the spirit. Come on, the gardens and observatories are waiting for you." They walked together through the palace gardens. Floating islands drifted above them, connected by bridges made of light that pulsed faintly as people walked across. Children of different species played, studied, and explored together. Lyra waved shyly at a few of them. Some waved back, curious about the new girl with shimmering violet eyes. Her first lesson of the day was in the observatory. Rows of telescopes pointed to distant stars, and holographic projections of planets, moons, and nebulae floated in the air. Lyra's mentor, a Lumian named Terran, guided her through basic observations. "Lyra," Terran said, "try projecting your memories of your home planet into the star chart. Compare the energy patterns there with those of Lumina's orbiting systems." Lyra's eyes sparkled. She activated her holographic device, projecting images of her crystalline home. The flowing rivers, floating forests, and glowing creatures appeared in the air above the observatory. Then she overlaid Lumina's star systems, observing the similarities and differences in energy patterns. "You notice things differently," Terran said. "Most children would simply record the facts. You see connections, patterns, relationships. That is a rare gift." Lyra smiled, feeling pride swell in her chest. She had once felt small, insignificant, lost in a universe too big to understand. But now she could see that her uniqueness was her strength, and that strength had a place here. After her morning lessons, Lyra wandered to the floating gardens. Children were attempting to build a small bridge between two islands, but the pieces kept drifting apart. Lyra stepped forward, analyzing the energy nodes and guiding them. "Try connecting this piece here and adjusting the flow gently," she suggested. "Then rotate that node slightly." Slowly, carefully, the bridge began to stabilize. The children's laughter filled the air as they crossed it successfully. Lyra beamed. She realized that helping others, sharing her knowledge, and solving problems made her feel alive in a way she had never known. Later, she returned to the palace hall, where the queen awaited. Selara had been observing Lyra's progress from afar, reading reports from tutors and guides. She smiled warmly as Lyra approached. "You have adapted remarkably well," the queen said. "You are learning quickly, helping others, and sharing your experiences." "Lumina is richer for having you here." Lyra blushed. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I feel like I finally belong, and I want to do more. I want to help Lumina grow and be a good part of it." The queen raised her hand in her customary gesture of approval, a glow radiating softly from her palm. "Then you shall. Your journey has shown courage, intelligence, and kindness. You will continue to learn, explore, and contribute, and your uniqueness will guide you." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her heart. For so long she had been alone, drifting through space with no home, no family, and no place to belong. Now she felt connected to the planet, the people, and the friends she was beginning to make. Over the next weeks, Lyra's life became filled with learning and adventure. She studied not only science, art, and the principles of Lumina, but also the customs of other species that lived and visited the planet. She discovered that every child had something to teach, no matter how small or different, and she eagerly absorbed every lesson. One day, she created a small observatory project to help children from various planets learn about each other's home worlds. Using her holographic device, she projected landscapes, cultures, and traditions, showing the beauty of diversity. The other children watched in awe, asking questions, sharing stories, and imagining the possibilities of interplanetary friendship. Captain Elan watched quietly from a distance, his heart swelling with pride. He remembered the frightened little girl on Aurora Nexus, wandering alone and whispering, "Please don't send me back." Now she was teaching others, leading and inspiring. She had grown far beyond the little orphan he had met days ago. Lyra herself felt the change within her. She had learned that belonging was not about where you were born, but about who you were and what you offered to the world. Her past, once a source of pain, had become a guide, reminding her to be compassionate, curious, and determined. One afternoon, she noticed a small group of children struggling to understand a complex energy flow system in one of the floating gardens. Lyra approached them, projecting her memories of similar systems from her home planet. She guided them through each step, explaining how energy nodes interacted, how flow patterns could be balanced, and how teamwork made the work easier. By the end, the system worked perfectly. Water flowed gently through the gardens, lights pulsed in harmony, and plants glowed with renewed energy. The children clapped, cheering for Lyra's guidance. Lyra felt a quiet joy she had never known, the joy of creating, helping, and belonging. That evening, she returned to her room and projected the image of her lost home once more. But this time, she combined it with Lumina's landscapes, the floating gardens, shimmering rivers, and starry skies. She whispered softly, "I will honor my home by living fully here, by helping others, and by sharing what I have learned." Captain Elan appeared at the doorway, watching her silently. "You've come so far, Lyra," he said. "From a frightened little girl in a crowded space station to someone who inspires and teaches, you've truly found your place." Lyra smiled, her eyes shimmering. "I feel like I have a home, a purpose, and friends. I feel like I belong." Elan nodded. "You do. And remember, this is only the beginning. There are many more stars to explore, ideas to discover, and lives to touch. Your journey is just starting." The next few months passed quickly. Lyra continued her lessons, made friends with children from multiple species, and explored Lumina's wonders. She discovered floating libraries, gardens that responded to thought and emotion, and rivers that glowed with the memories of the planet. She began documenting everything she learned, creating her own holographic guides for new arrivals to Lumina. One day, the queen called Lyra to the palace gardens. "Lyra," she said, her eyes glowing with warmth, "you have grown remarkably. You have shared your knowledge, helped others, and inspired your peers. I am proud of the person you are becoming." Lyra bowed her head respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I could not have done this without Lumina, without everyone's kindness, and without Captain Elan's guidance." The queen smiled. "Kindness is always a two-way path. You have given as much as you have received. And now I believe it is time for you to create something that will last, a place where children of all worlds can learn, explore, and belong." Lyra's heart leapt. I would love to do that," she said. With the queen's blessing, Lyra began designing a new observatory and learning center, a place where children from any planet could come to study, share their cultures, and explore the universe. She combined her memories of her home planet with Lumina's technologies, creating a space that was both familiar and innovative. Holographic gardens floated above the learning rooms, stars were projected for astronomy lessons, and interactive stories allowed children to experience the wonders of other worlds. Children from across Lumina and visiting planets came to learn from Lyra's creation. They marveled at the floating landscapes, asked questions about alien species, and shared their own memories and stories. Lyra guided them patiently, teaching not only facts but also the values of empathy, curiosity, and cooperation. One evening, as the twin suns set and the floating gardens glowed in the soft light, Lyra sat quietly in the observatory. She reflected on her journey from a frightened little girl pleading, "Please don't send me back," to someone who had found a home, a purpose, and friends who valued her. She realized that her lost home was not gone. It lived in her memories and in the lessons she shared. Captain Elan joined her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You've done more than I ever imagined," he said softly. "You've created a place of learning, friendship, and hope. You've made a difference, Lyra." Lyra smiled, feeling tears of joy and pride in her eyes. "I couldn't have done it alone. Lumina, the Queen, my friends, and you, Captain Elan, you helped me see that even someone small can shine brightly." Elan shook his head with a gentle smile. "No, Lyra, you helped yourself. You believed, you worked, and you cared. That is why you shine." Lyra gazed out at the floating islands, the glowing rivers, and the twinkling stars above. She whispered softly, "I will keep learning, exploring, and helping others. I will honor my past and build a future where everyone can belong." The stars above Lumina twinkled like a million tiny lanterns, as if acknowledging her promise. Lyra realized that her journey was not just about finding a home. It was about creating one, not only for herself, but for others who might be lost or different. And in that moment, Lyra understood the full meaning of belonging, purpose, and hope. She was no longer just an orphan drifting through the universe. She was a bridge between worlds, a guide for others, and a shining example of courage, kindness, and intelligence. As night fell over Lumina, Lyra's observatory glowed softly, a beacon of learning, compassion, and curiosity. Children from many worlds explored, learned, and laughed, and Lyra knew that her journey had truly found its purpose. She had discovered that even the smallest, most lost among us could shine brightly, and that light could guide countless others through the universe. And so Lyra's story continued, not as a tale of loss or fear, but as a story of hope, belonging, and the endless possibilities of a universe filled with kindness, curiosity, and wonder.